Hey guys, it's Anna and today I'm going to show you how I wear makeup while on Accutane. So I went ahead and did my eye makeup off camera just because there's no real Accutane tips to give you when it comes to eye makeup. The only tip I can think is to use a spoolie on your brows before you fill them in and after you fill them in. It might sound really disgusting, but your brows get like flaky and dry just as much as your skin, and so you want to make sure to brush that out before you put in product. But with that all being said, let's focus on the skin. So personally, I don't use primer, and I know everyone that's like on Accutane or has been on Accutane is probably freaking out at that statement. I just haven't found one that like really affects my skin in a positive way. So what I do instead is I use an oil before I put on my makeup. I really like jojoba oil. This one's like $15. I'll link it down below. But what I do is I just put like 3 to 4 drops of this on my hand and I rub it into my face about 5 minutes before I want to put on my makeup. So I'll like do this and then brush my teeth and pick out my outfit or something like that. And then that primes my skin and it keeps it moisturized. There's like no flakiness. My skin looks basically good the whole day with makeup when I use that oil. So basically, if you don't want to use a primer, then just make sure that your skin is super moisturized. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking the oil messes with the foundation, but it doesn't. It might for some foundations, but for how I do it, it doesn't really affect it and I really like it. Now, if you are insistent on using a primer, then I've heard the Hangover Too Faced primer is really good for Accutane skin, so I would look at that if you want. But now we can move on to foundation. So my foundation that I really like is Makeup Forever Ultra HD. This stuff is not drying at all and it gives you a good coverage. It's like medium buildable, but if you're like me and you really love full coverage, lately I haven't because my skin's been doing good, but for the first like 3 to 4 months of Accutane, you still have acne and you still have bumps. Your skin might even purge, and you definitely want to get a routine that will cover all of that but not be too drying. So today I'm going to show you that routine. Right now I honestly just do foundation and then under eye concealer, and maybe I'll spot conceal. But what I'll show you today is how I did my makeup the first like 3 to 4 months of Accutane because I wanted high coverage and I wanted it not to dry my skin out completely. So my technique for this is totally weird, but just hang in there with me. It works, it's just weird. So what I'll do is I mix this foundation with a concealer, and the two concealers I like to do that with are the Super Stay Better Skin Concealer by Maybelline and the Age Rewind Eraser by Maybelline. I know this is meant for under eye circles, but for some reason it does awesome on covering up pimples and acne scars and redness and anything like that. So today I'm going to be using this one, but this one's also really good. I'm just gonna use this because I think the color matches me a bit better. So what I actually did with this concealer is I removed the sponge tip applicator. I just like popped it off, and what I'll do is I'll twist it until I get a lot out, and I put that in the palm of my hand. And I put it in the palm of my hand because not so much right now, but for a couple of months I had really bad like eczema. I didn't want to put foundation on the back of my hand because it was all dry and the foundation would stick in there and be disgusting. So I have like this much concealer. You can do more. I used to do a lot more, but I'm just gonna do this much for today and then some foundation. We'll start with just 2 pumps. Now, the best way I have found to apply foundation is by using a sponge, which is kind of sad for me because I love a couple of my makeup brushes for foundation. Like this one is so good for foundation. When you're on Accutane, your skin is just too dry, and like this is just gonna bring up all of that dead skin, and you don't want that. So using a damp makeup sponge is going to be your best friend when applying foundation. And this is running all over my hand, so I'm gonna hurry and mix it. Again, like as long as you're using a damp makeup sponge, it should be good. There's no like special technique I have for you where it like buffing or anything. Just apply it like normal. And I try to avoid going over my lips because my lips are already dry, and putting like product on it is going to make it more dry. Of course, sometimes I miss, but try to avoid your lips. It's better, honestly, to like go far out from your lips and then go back in with a like concealer brush around your lips with it than to get it on and then you have to wipe it off and apply your Aquaphor or chapstick or whatever again. That can be kind of annoying. Okay. I am gonna do one more pump just so I can like blend it into my neck. Okay, so that's pretty good, but you might have noticed that I didn't really go over my nose, and that's because some reason Accutane, well, it's like destroying my pores. So it kind of has made it so around my nose, makeup just doesn't want to stay. And so what I do, well, I do a couple things, but what I do is I go in with a brush instead of a sponge, and I just really, like, I have to press it into the corners. And sometimes I do like 50% concealer, 50% foundation when it comes to that area, just because, I mean, my entire life, my makeup hasn't really wanted to stay on my nose, but especially with Accutane, it kind of just decides that it doesn't want to cooperate. So I'm gonna go in with this concealer brush that's kind of fluffy, and I'm going to just paint it on my nose. So you can probably see that there are still a couple of spots hanging out. Now, I have kind of come to accept my acne scars. I don't really care about covering them a lot of the time, but if I do, like maybe for a special occasion, what I do is use that same fluffy concealer brush, and then the same concealer I mixed in with my foundation, and I go over those areas. And while I'm doing this, I also conceal my under eyes. So one good tip with spot concealing is you can kind of like randomly dab where you want to cover and then let that sit for a minute or two. It will kind of harden, get tacky, and it will stay on and give you a little more coverage than if you were to just blend it out immediately. I know it might seem like I'm doing a lot of work to get full coverage when I could just be using a full coverage foundation. Here's the thing with full coverage foundations though, they're often very drying. So this is what I have found works for me. There might be a foundation out there that does it all and is hydrating. I've looked at a lot of them, and I feel like they didn't do all the things that they promised, and so this is just my solution. And if you have like a large cluster of pimples you want to spot conceal, then instead of going in with a brush like this, what you could do is go in with a brush like this. They're very similar, but this one is just a little larger. So now when it comes to setting powders, I like the Laura Mercier translucent powder. I'm gonna be honest with you though, for a little bit, like maybe a month, maybe around month 2 or 3, I didn't set my makeup because I was so afraid it was gonna dry out my skin even more, until I started doing this method, which I saw from, I think her name is Christy, she's a YouTuber, I'll link her down below as well. What she does is she puts some in the lid like you would usually do, but then she goes in with a damp makeup sponge and puts a little bit of product on there, and then just press that into your skin. And why this is really helpful is it's not really drying, but if you were to use, let's say, a powdered brush, then again you risk that like bringing up all of that dry, flaky skin, which you don't want. And so by pressing it, you're keeping everything exactly where you put it. Okay, so once again, you might have noticed that I didn't go over my nose, and that is because how I have to set my nose is now totally different than before Accutane. What I actually do now is, again, totally weird, but I'll use like an eyeshadow brush or a fluffy brush. All mine are dirty, like except for this one, so I'll use this one. But I use a fluffy brush basically, and I go in with that powder and I just drench my nose in it. And this might seem a little extra, it's what a girl's gotta do because I like contouring my nose. I want it to look nice and dimensional, you know? So in order to do that, I have to put in all this powder so that when I do contour my nose, it stays there and the foundation doesn't just rub off with the contour. Then to make sure I got all of that off, I'm going to go in with a fluffy brush just around my nose. Now I'm going to blush and contour. Okay, I know there's a difference between contouring and bronzing. I just apply bronzer to like the hollows of my cheeks. Then for my nose, I just go like this. And again, when my skin was really bad, honestly, all I did for like bronzing was I put some makeup on the brush and I just kind of tapped. I wanted to kind of press it into my skin because I was afraid if I did this, then flaky skin would happen. Now I can kind of do this, but if your skin is super sensitive and flaking, then just put some on your brush and go like this and just kind of tap it in. I use the Sephora bronzing face powder. I've talked about this in another video. I really like it. Then I'm gonna go in with this Milani blush and just use it on a small fluffy brush, and I just smile and again press it into your cheeks. Now, I'm not that into highlight. I just feel like I haven't found one that I'm in love with, but the one I use right now that I'm cool with is by Physicians Formula, and I'm just going to put that on this angled brush and kind of dust it over my cheekbones and on my nose. Then for lips, I'm just gonna put on some chapstick. Honestly, I would just wear chapstick or Aquaphor, like tinted chapstick as my lipstick, but because I want to be fancy today, I'll show you what I would do in that situation. So I would just use a lip liner and not completely fill in my lips because like right here it gets really dry and right here. So kind of just eyeball where you can put in lip liner and make sure you put that chapstick down first because that's going to give you a little bit of a slippery base. And you want a slippery base because you can kind of cover more of your lip. Then I'm just gonna go in with this lip gloss. And lip gloss is making a comeback, so huzzah for that. So that is it, you guys. That's how I do my makeup while on Accutane. I hope you liked it. Again, if you want more coverage or less coverage, you can adjust the concealer amounts. Hopefully you found this helpful, and please give it a thumbs up if you like these kind of videos, and I will see you in my next one.